Hello, my name is Mackenzie and I'm autistic and an ADHDer, and this is my YouTube channel, Autistic Musings. On my channel, I spread autism awareness by defining autistic terms, sharing uniquely neurodivergent solutions to uniquely neurodivergent problems, and sharing my own personal experience as a neurodivergent person. And on my channel today, we're going to be discussing an important topic. If you've heard of this before, maybe you haven't, the DSM and the diagnostic tools used to actually diagnose autism, which is really important to go over if you're seeking a diagnosis or think you might be autistic. So that's what we'll be discussing today. Welcome back, all my returning viewers, and to all my newcomers, hey, thank you for clicking. Thank you for my returning viewers too. You guys are awesome. I'm having a fun day. My sister did my nails and now I have blue nails. I love blue. But anyway, DSM, what's the DSM? I went over that. It's a diagnostic tool used to diagnose people with autism. And this is really important, especially if you're in America. I want to start with a disclaimer. The DSM-5 is not used in all parts of the world necessarily. So check what is used in your area. I am specifically going over this one because I live in America and I was diagnosed here and I researched that, and I want to talk about that at a later time. I may go over different diagnostic tools in other parts of the world. I think that would be really interesting. If you are in a part of the world that uses a different diagnostic tool, maybe put it in the comments below. I would love to look it up and read about it, okay? Anyway, the DSM is, again, diagnostic tools used by experts to diagnose people with autism, ADHD, and other neurodivergent conditions. And I will be going over each of the technical symptoms and all that, and explaining what the heck it means, because they use really complicated language in the DSM, very technical, and sometimes it's very confusing. And also people get confused and think that autistic people have a certain behavior that they display, but it's really there's multiple manifestations of the same symptom. So people assume that we look one way sometimes, but we don't. So I'm going to go over that by going over the DSM diagnostic criteria. And I'll go over examples of each one to explain to you all the multiple manifestations. It's going to be a technical one, but I'll have a simplified definition after I read the technical term. And I have my old phone. I used to use this one, but then the speaker broke and I had to get the new one I'm using now. It's red. I like the blue, but the red's cool too. Anyway, so first, let's go over the first symptom of autism and the first one in the DSM. It says, persistent deficient in social communication and social interaction across contexts, not accounted for by general developmental delays, and manifests by 3 of 3 symptoms. So this is the first category of symptoms, and you have to have 3 for 3, but there's lots of manifestations of it, so let me go over those before you think, oh, I don't have one of those. Anyway, there's 3 different ones, and what I just said just means that this is across the board. It's not, you struggle in each of these areas in multiple contexts. It's not just in one context, which means one environment or one place where you struggle. It's across the board, everywhere. You struggle everywhere. At school, at work, in relationships. This is a consistent struggle. That's what that means. and it is not accounted for by other developmental delays, which means intellectual disabilities. It isn't accounted for by a different condition other than autism. All right, did that make sense? And then you have to have all three of these symptoms, but I'll go over examples of each of these, which is really extensive. This is probably going to be a long video. Stick with me. It's important. So A1, this is the first category of symptoms. Deficiency in social emotional reciprocity, ranging from abnormal social approach and failure of back and forth conversation through reduced sharing of interest, emotions, affect, or response to total lack of intonation of social interaction. See, that was a mouthful. But what this means, abnormal social approach, means unusual social initiations. This could be, this is the example they use, intrusive touching or licking of others. Like, this is what we'd call an unusual social approach here. This is not the only way this goes. They use the worst ones first. The use of others as tools. The failure of back and forth conversation, poor pragmatic or social use of language and does not clarify when understood, does not provide background information, failure to respond when name is called or directly spoken to, does not initiate conversation, one-sided conversations, monologues, tangential speech. This is definitely the one I qualified for right now. This one-sided speech. This is why I'm good at the YouTube. I do well with monologues. It tends to be my default setting as a person. I will lecture, instruct, teach is the nice word for that. But it's generally a bit one-sided, which is why I'm in that category. And reduced sharing of interest. Doesn't share. I do that too. I don't share about myself very often when you meet me in person. I do it for the sake of relaying information. So on this channel, I relay a lot of information and spread awareness. My sharing of information about myself has a purpose. An actual person, I'm not so good at it. Lack of showing, bringing, or pointing out objects of interest to others, impairment in joint attention, both initiating and responding. Yeah, there's a lot of that. Then reduced sharing of emotions and affect. I also qualify for this one. I don't share my feelings often. Or at all, unless you directly ask me in a really explicit way. And then even then, I'll start saying how an event went first, because I'm confused about what I felt about that and I'm trying to figure it out. So this could mean there's reduced lack of sharing of emotion and affect. This is how this could go. There's multiple ways for this to be expressed. Lack of responsive social smile. So, you know how everybody likes to smile at everybody in America? When they do this, you don't do that, because why would I smile if you didn't make me happy? That was a quote. But yeah, the reduced lack of social smile. The focus here is to respond to another person's smile. Yeah, that response, that immediate response that many people do, where they, oh, smile back, hi. Failure to share enjoyment, excitement, or achievement with others. I did that too, yeah. Failure to respond to praise, terrified of it. Does not show pleasure in social interactions. I can show it now, after years of hard work, to look like I'm enjoying it. Failure to offer comfort to others. This is the specific one that they used in my assessment, because I struggle with the comforting of others. Your tears freak me out, and I think God, when I cry, I want people to go away. Why? What do I do? And I know that they don't want me to go away. I've learned that, and other comforting behaviors, but I still struggle. Indifference or aversion to physical contact or affection. Also this one for me. Don't hug me. I'm going over each of these, and yes, I'm having running commentary on the ones I qualified for and such. But you notice that I did multiple in this category, and this is only one of the symptoms. Yeah, that's why I'm trying to speed through here, because it's going to be like a 20-something minute video. It's going to be insane. Lack of initiation of social interaction. Only initiates to get help. Limited social interactions. I struggled with the get help thing too. I did some of that. Yeah, not good. Poor social imitation. Failure to engage in simple social games. Yeah, there too. So simple social games is referring to, the house games and all that imaginary stuff. They're social games. You do social things and social roles, and you got to catch on to the social cues. Did not like those. In the next category, so all of those were just one of them. All those expressions that I just named off, that was only one of the symptoms. So there's lots of examples that aren't necessarily one. Deficiency in nonverbal communication behaviors used for social interactions, ranging from poorly integrated verbal or nonverbal communication through abnormalities in eye contact and body language, or deficiency in understanding or using nonverbal communication to total lack of facial expression and gestures. So impaired. This is the list of all these examples of this. Now, there's multiple. You'll notice the eye contact thing. Impaired in social use of eye contact. Notice that it does not say avoiding eye contact. That's actually not the symptom here. It's abnormal, which means that you could be like me, who actually avoids eye contact quite a bit. It's not comfortable, so why would I do it? Or you could be like some of the autistic people that I see that are starers. You don't break eye contact. Never. This is what we call abnormal eye contact. So typical eye contact, there's actually a general rule that I heard one autistic person give a good definition of, which is they do intermittent eye contact, which is like switching off like every 3 seconds. Like they don't just stare and make eye contact the whole time. Other people, there's cues. This is part of the cueing. They look at each other and make eye contact when they're switching off in conversations, and it's your turn. And they don't always stare straight at each other when they're having conversations. There's this back and forth, and this is used as a communication tool. Autistic people can have a range or have normal eye contact. It's not always just the eye contact. There's multiple here. But the usual thing is avoiding eye contact, having the unusual eye contact, or you could be a starer. It's called overcompensation. Impairment in use or understanding of body posture, facing away. So when people are in a conversation with each other, generally they face towards each other. I did not learn this until later on in life, and it looked like I was ignoring people apparently. Ooh, did not know that. But yes, you face towards somebody, and then you're listening apparently, because you listen with your body, not your ears. Note the sarcasm. I don't get it either. But this is the rule here, and this is why we stick out as a little bit odd. Impairment in use of understanding gestures, pointing, waving, shaking head. You can, you're not using them right, or you're not using them at all. Notice that it's like extremes for autism. We're overcompensating, or we don't even know it exists. This is going on. Abnormal volume, pitch, intonation, rate, rhythm, stress, yeah, that was bad. Prosody. I know this word, but it's not working right now. We'll come back to it. Or volume in speech. They noticed in the interview that I talk a little bit loud. I tend to fluctuate, but I'm not doing the right volume. I tend to do the outdoor voice indoor, especially when I just get a touch excited about any subject whatsoever. And then suddenly my voice gets really loud. And I'm always a little bit loud when I'm actually like talking or really silent. I don't use the right inflections apparently either. During the interview, I used the wrong ones apparently. So there's that. Abnormals and using and understanding affect. This affect is considered impairment in use of facial expression, lack of warm, joyful expressions directed at others, limited communication of own affect, inability to convey a range of emotions via words, expressions, tone of voice, or gestures, inability to recognize or interpret other people's nonverbal expressions. So what this means basically is that when you have certain emotions or anything, an autistic person might not pick up on them. They might think, oh, that's a face. It's moving. What does it mean? That's me. I have learned over the years what certain facial expressions mean. I've had to memorize them though, and I still struggle with new people and what they mean. Also, an add-on to that is sometimes our faces don't make the right expression for certain emotions. So we could be making an angry face and not be angry. Our face could not be moving at all, and we look expressionless and are not responding at all because we're still feeling emotions. Our face just doesn't do that movement. Or, again, the matchup's wrong. So I do this sometimes. I'll make faces and emotions and people will tell me that it means that and I'm like, no, that's no. So there's that. This is going to be a super long video. Oh my God. But anyway, so there's like multiple expressions of that. Not being able to interpret other people's facial expressions, gesture, or nonverbal communication. Not being able to transmit proper gestures, communication, nonverbal communication, and ends up you being misinterpreted because you're not doing the faces right apparently. Or you're not doing the faces at all. Anyway. Lack of coordinated verbal and nonverbal communication, inability to coordinate eye contact and body language with words, inability to coordinate. So this means that you're not matching up body language wise. Again, can't coordinate the words with what you're saying verbally. There's body language to go with what you're saying usually, apparently. And certain body language with certain words doesn't match up. It's why sometimes we get accused of lying when we're not actually lying because our body language looks funky to people because we're overcompensating or not doing it right, or they think we're not doing it right, so they're all, what's off here? So there's that. Lack of coordination, lack of coordinated nonverbal, inability to coordinate eye contact with gestures. Again, no likey the eye contact, at least for me. So that's why it wouldn't be coordinated with the hand gestures, because I don't want to look at you in the first place. Now we're into category or symptom 3 of category A. It's a lot. This is going to be a long video. It's going to be so annoying to edit. But I'm going to go over all of it and give all these examples because often people get confused that there's different manifestations and expressions of these symptoms. So this is 3 of category A. Deficiency in developing and maintaining relationships appropriate to developmental level beyond those with caregivers, ranging from a difficulties adjusting behaviors to suit social contexts, through difficulties in sharing imaginative play, and in making friends to an apparent absence of interest in people. Sorry for that pause. I was having a moment with the words again. Now, then under this, there's examples and the more examples. Deficiency in developing and maintaining relationships appropriate to developmental level. So lack of theory of mind. This is theory of mind. It's not necessarily certain. Inability to take another person's perspective. Now, the double empathy theory says that this is not an issue when it's another autistic person. There's no actual lack of theory of mind going on. It's just we struggle to understand non-autistic people because their perspective is so different. So go over that. But if you struggle to understand most of the population, it's fair to say you struggle, and to struggle to take on their perspective. If you only are able to take on the perspective of other autistic people, I'm just saying, you might be autistic. Difficulties adjusting behaviors to suit social contexts. Oh, I struggle with this one. Does not notice another person's lack of interest in activity. I talked for 3 hours about introverts and extroverts, and I did not know the other person in the conversation did not find it as interesting as me. I learned over the course of my childhood that rarely do I find people that aren't autistic that share my level of intensity of interest in subjects. There's a level of interest that if you can talk about a subject for 3 hours without any preparation, it's pretty intense, and you can't tell that the other person is not interested at all. You're not reading those cues at all, and you keep on going and going and going. Lack of a response to contextual cues. This is contextual cues, is social cues from others indicating a change of behavior is explicitly requested. To be fair to us, no one's explicit with these. Lack of response to contextual cues. So there's a lot of subtle things that people try to say that, knock it off, change the behavior. And it's a subtle way that they address it, most like neurotypical people. And most autistic people are kind of confused when you don't just tell us to knock it off. Like, that would be more effective. Or just tell us, that bothers me. That seems easier. Inappropriate expression of emotions. Laughing or smiling out of context. Note, other abnormalities in use and understanding emotions should be considered under A2, blah, 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 blah. So inappropriate expression of emotions. This could also be in reference to sometimes autistic people use the wrong expressions or emotional emoting, laughing at the wrong moments. Very, very wrong moments. This could be from multiple and many, many of reasons. 1, you don't understand the social situation, so you misinterpreted it and you thought it was supposed to be funny. It was not funny. They were serious. Damn. But laughing when you're sad or laughing when you're intensely awkward and it's just full-blown laughing, like the emotions are wrong given the situation. You know what? Some things are funny that people don't get are funny. Okay? And sometimes being sad, inappropriate expressions of emotions. I'm somewhat on the fence about this one because how is an emotion inappropriate expressed? Anyway, moving on. Unaware of social convention or appropriate social behavior, asks socially inappropriate questions or makes socially inappropriate statements. Constantly. What is an example of this? I once asked somebody that had been dating a man for 10 years that, when are you guys going to get married? You've been dating for so long. Or socially inappropriate behavior. Unaware of social conventions, unaware that you're not allowed to talk about certain subjects in public involving the bathroom, your sex life, or any of the above. All of these are called socially inappropriate behavior, and unaware of the social convention means that you put your foot in your mouth often and you say things that are deeply, deeply inappropriate. And you don't realize until you hear the awkward silence that follows and the really long period of silence where everybody's looking at you like, horrified. Yeah, this familiar expression like, what did you just say? And then they follow with that statement. So often I did this as a kid and I still do this as an adult. Luckily, I know to save those questions for private and only with people that know that I have an issue. So that, yeah, lots of those. Does not notice another's distress or disinterest. Again, we referenced the top. I did not, as a kid, notice anyone was upset until they were full-blown crying. I did not notice the distress. I think I once made a girl cry because I was being rather rude to her, but I didn't realize she was distressed or upset until she started, bawling in front of me. I felt like a horrible human being once I realized she was upset and she was crying. But I did not notice her distress until it was the point of everybody did. So I can eventually get there, but it has to be pretty obvious with the cue. Crying is not a good sign. I've learned that. And not noticing another's disinterest. I talked for 3 hours about a subject somebody was obviously disinterested in. Does not recognize when not welcomed in play or conversational setting. So a constant thing that was said to me as a kid, and maybe many others, is this is an A and B conversation. See your way out. I constantly edged my way into conversations. I did not realize I was supposed to pretend that I couldn't hear anything and that it was their conversation. How was I supposed to know? No one told me. And I was the youngest sibling, so they kind of acted like it was usual for me to be annoying, but I constantly did this to my older siblings, my parents, and everybody that surrounded me. And this is the phrase I heard: this is an A and B conversation and see way out. I had no idea what that meant. I resented that statement. What it really means is this is a private conversation. Please ignore it or pretend you do not hear it. Oh, okay. That would have been a better explanation there. Okay. But yeah, that's an example there. Limited recognition of social emotions. Does not notice when he or she is being teased. Does not notice when he or she does not notice how his or her behavior impacts others emotionally. Did not notice when I was being teased as a child. I only noticed later on, way later, well into adulthood, that certain people being malicious towards me. It did not occur to me that they were. At the time, even though now as an adult, I realized some of their phrases were deeply rude and offensive. I didn't know. But generally, there was teasing as a kid. I got teased. I did not realize I was being teased. And yes, I was not aware that some of my actions affected others emotionally. I was completely oblivious to it at times. Whether it was positive or negative, I would like to put that there. So I was unaware that I caused people to feel good emotional reactions as well as bad. Unaware of impact there whatsoever. So I could have done nice things that I received praise for them, shocked at the praise, did not like the praise, ran away from the praise, and did not realize I caused good things. Yeah, there's a lot of examples here. This is going to be ridiculous. I've got to hurry up. It's a half an hour already. But anyway, I still want to go through all of these. If you make it through this, you're boss. You're my favorite. Difficulties sharing imaginary play. Note, solitary imaginary play or role-playing is not captured here. Lack of imaginary play with peers, including social role-playing. House. Didn't like House. Dolls. Didn't like dolls. I didn't like any game where we were pretending to be completely different people. I found it very strange and odd. And I didn't know what we were supposed to be doing. There was no rules. I didn't know what the goal was. I didn't understand. My imaginary play was not there. Like, I'd have this nice, rich fantasy world. I still have that up here, but Barbies. I really, really didn't get Barbies as a kid, or dolls, or any imaginary play. I'm definitely the most stereotypical autistic person there. No, I don't get that. Why are we doing that? What's the function of a Barbie? Hello. Yeah, I had to cut myself off because I talk too much. I'm so shocked. And I can't upload an hour video, and I found this out like mid-editing, and I deleted so much stuff off my phone and it just won't work. So I had to change my plan. I didn't like that, but I did it. You guys can tune in next week to see part 2 of this video of diagnostic criteria. I'm sorry for making it inconvenient for you and making a part 2, but I had to. So tune in next week on Autistic Musings for part 2. And let's see this beautiful background as a cool show off. Look at that, that's my house. I see that every day. Cool, bye.